Morning always comes quietly, even in a place where people's lives are loud. The sun rose over a quiet street where two houses stood side by side, separated by one high wall. The wall was not very thick, but it felt heavy because it divided two different worlds. On one side was the Azakiwe mansion. It was the kind of house people slowed down to stare at when they passed. The compound was wide, the gate was tall and shiny with gold designs that caught the light. Inside, you could see a swimming pool that looked like it belonged in a hotel. Even the flowers in the garden looked expensive, like somebody paid them to bloom. The Azikiwe home did not try to be quiet, it announced itself. On the other side of that same wall was the Nwosu home. It was small, but it was clean. The paint was still fresh on the outside walls, a simple white that made the house look bright in the morning sun. There was no big gate, no pool, no security men standing around like statues. But there was dignity. Behind the small house in a corner of the yard, cassava leaves rose from the soil, green and stubborn, like they refused to give up no matter what the season brought. That was the Nwosu way. And the strange thing was this. The two families were not only neighbors. They were connected in a way most people would not understand until they looked closely. Because Blessing Nwosu, the woman who lived in the small house, also worked inside the big one. She was a maid in the Azikiwe mansion. So it was not just rich and poor living near each other. It was rich and poor touching each other every single day. That morning, inside the Nwosu home, the day had started long before the sun fully settled into the sky. In their small kitchen, Mama Blessing Nwosu stood over a deep pot of hot oil. She was in her late 40s, a woman with a tired body but steady hands. Her face carried the marks of years of work, years of waking up early, stretching small money and praying for strength. On the counter beside her was a bowl of batter, already mixed. The smell of frying snacks filled the air, warm and familiar. It was the kind of smell that told you a family was trying, a family was surviving. This was how they lived. They sold fried snacks every morning because they needed them. Not because it was easy, not because it was fancy, just because it put food on the table and kept the household standing. The kitchen door opened softly. Emily Nwosu, Blessing's daughter, stepped in. Emily was 22. She was beautiful in a simple way. Nothing forced, nothing loud. Her face had a calm softness that made people feel at ease, and her eyes carried something deeper than her age, quiet determination. She tied her wrapper properly and moved closer, as if she already knew what needed to be done. "Mummy," she said gently, "let me help you." Blessing turned and looked at her daughter. There was a small smile on her face, the kind of smile that showed pride but also worry, because a mother can be proud and afraid at the same time. "You woke up early again," Blessing said. Emily reached for the bowl of batter. "If I sleep too much, who will help you? You've been standing since morning." Blessing wanted to protest, but she did not. She knew Emily. Once Emily decided to help, she helped with her whole heart. Emily began to work beside her mother, steady and careful. She arranged the bowl. She cleaned the small space around them. She handed Blessing what she needed before she even asked. It was not only the work, it was the way she did it, like it mattered. Blessing watched her for a moment, and her eyes softened. "You are a blessing to me, Emily," she said quietly. "God will reward you for this good heart." Emily smiled, but she didn't make a big show of it. "Mummy, I'm just doing what I should do." They worked like that for a while, mother and daughter in the warm kitchen with the sound of oil frying and morning birds outside. Then Blessing glanced at the old wall clock hanging near the corner. The moment her eyes landed on the time, her body tensed. Emily noticed. "Mummy, you're late," Emily asked. Blessing wiped her hands quickly on her wrapper. "Not late, but I must not waste time. I still have to go to the Azakiwe house this morning." When she said the name, something always changed in the air. Not because Emily feared the Azakiwes like criminals, but because that house reminded them of what they didn't have. It reminded them that Blessing could spend her whole day cleaning someone else's luxury and still come home to count coins before buying gari. Blessing moved quickly now. She covered the pot properly and arranged the snacks she had made. Emily helped pack the remaining ones, placing them carefully as if each one carried hope inside it. Blessing washed her hands and began to get ready. She was not dressing for comfort. She was dressing for work. Her blouse was simple. Her wrapper was plain. She tied her scarf neatly, not because anyone in that mansion cared about her beauty, but because she cared about her dignity. Emily stood and watched her mother for a moment. "Mummy," she said softly, "don't stress yourself too much today." Blessing paused and looked at her. Then she reached out and touched Emily's cheek with the back of her fingers, like she was reminding herself that her daughter was real. "I will be fine," Blessing said. "Just keep your mind strong and keep your heart clean. That is what will carry you farther than money." Emily nodded slowly. Blessing picked up her small bag and took one last look at the kitchen, the snacks, and her daughter standing there. She stepped toward the door, ready to cross the street, ready to cross the wall again. And as she walked out into the morning, the Azikiwe mansion stood on one side, shining like it had no worries in the world. While behind her, the Nmosu home stood quietly, holding its dignity like a secret treasure. 2 homes, 1 wall, and a connection that would soon become impossible to ignore. Blessing picked up her pace as she crossed the street. The morning air was still cool, but her body was already warming up from the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She did not look left or right. She did not stop to greet anyone. Not because she was proud, but because she had learned something about life. When you are late to a rich person's house, your whole day can turn into trouble. She reached the Azikiwe gate. It was tall, smooth, heavy, the kind of gate that made you feel small even before you entered. Blessing did not go through the main entrance. She turned toward the side, to the place people rarely looked at. The staff entrance. It was a smaller door cut into the wall, plain and quiet, like it was not meant to be noticed. Blessing knocked lightly, and when it opened, she stepped inside with the same carefulness she carried every day. The compound greeted her like a different country. The ground was tiled, clean, shiny tiles that did not forgive dirt. A gardener was already trimming flowers with small scissors, as if even the leaves needed to behave. The air smelled of fresh grass and an expensive air freshener. Blessing swallowed. In her own house, the kitchen was small, the floor was cement. They cooked with what they had, and sometimes the smoke from the oil stayed in the curtains for days. But here, everything looked like it was made to impress. She walked farther in, heading straight to the back area where staff worked. "Good morning," she greeted quietly as she passed another worker. "Good morning, Mama Blessing," the woman replied. Blessing only nodded. She did not talk too much in this house. Talking too much could bring attention, and attention, in a place like this, could become a problem. She tied her scarf tighter and began her chores. First, she swept and mopped the back corridor, moving like someone who had done it 1,000 times. Then she moved into the main kitchen, wide, bright, with cupboards that looked like they cost more than her entire rent. She arranged plates, wiped surfaces, and set things straight. She did not rush, but she did not waste time either. Blessing kept her head down and focused. She knew how it worked. One small mistake, one broken glass, one wrong look, and somebody could shout at her like she was nothing. Or worse, they could replace her without blinking. In this kind of house, staff were easy to change, like light bulbs. She was not just living beside the Azikiwes. She was serving in their home, and she had no choice but to survive inside it. Upstairs, in one of the luxury rooms, the day was starting very differently. Sandra Azikiwe lay on a large bed that looked too soft for real life. The curtains were thick, keeping the room dim even though the sun was fully out. The air conditioner hummed gently, cooling the room as if heat was an insult. Sandra was 22, the same age as Emily, but everything about her life felt like a different world. She was beautiful, the kind of beauty people noticed quickly. Her skin glowed with careful maintenance, her nails were always done, and even her sleep looked expensive. She stretched lazily and reached for her phone before she even sat up. She scrolled through her screen with half-open eyes, moving from one post to another, as nothing mattered beyond what she could see online. A soft knock came at her door. "Madam Sandra," a young housegirl called politely. "Your breakfast is ready." Sandra did not answer. The girl stood there for a second, then spoke again, a little louder, still respectful. "Madam, your breakfast." Sandra continued scrolling, as if the voice was not even in the room. Downstairs, another voice rose, sharp, impatient, used to being obeyed. "Sandra!" someone shouted from the living room. "It's already morning. Your saloon appointment is in 1 hour." That was Susan Azikiwe, Sandra's mother. Susan was the kind of woman who always looked put together. Even at home, she carried herself like somebody important. Her voice had a command in it that did not allow excuses. Sandra finally sighed and tossed the phone lightly on the bed like it had offended her. "Mummy, I'm coming," she called out, dragging the words. Then almost immediately she added with irritation, "I need time to choose what to wear." She stood up slowly, walked toward her wardrobe and pulled the doors open. Clothes were arranged neatly. Bags, shoes, dresses, all lined up like they were waiting to be chosen. Sandra stared at them like a judge. "I can't be caught looking cheap," she muttered to herself, loud enough for the house girl outside to hear. She picked up one outfit, dropped it back and picked another. Her mind was not on breakfast. Her mind was on appearance. Because in Sandra's world, looking rich was not just a style. It was a duty. And downstairs, while Sandra took her time choosing outfits like it was the most serious thing in the world, Blessing continued wiping counters and arranging plates quietly, doing her best to remain invisible in a house that had everything, while her own home struggled to hold on to simple peace. 2 young women, same age, 2 different mornings, and a wall between them that could not stop fate from finding its way through. Blessing stayed behind in the Azikiwe mansion, moving from one chore to another like a shadow. But across the wall, life did not pause. As soon as her mother left, Emily packed the snacks they had made that morning and headed out. The tray was not heavy, but the meaning behind it was. It was the kind of hustle that did not announce itself. It only showed up every day and tried again. Her small snack stand was nothing fancy, just a simple space at the market where people could stop, buy, and move on. Still, it mattered. It helped them pay for food. It helped them breathe. When Emily arrived, some familiar faces were already there. "Emily, good morning," one woman called out. "Good morning, Ma," Emily replied warmly, smiling as she arranged her things. People liked Emily, not because she begged them to, but because she treated everyone with respect, whether they bought 1 snack or 10, whether they were rich-looking or struggling like her. She greeted the old men. She greeted the women selling vegetables. She greeted the children running around with small coins in their hands. And because she was kind, kindness often returned to her. One woman in particular always watched her with a motherly eye. Her name was Auntie Teresa Eze. Auntie Teresa was a vegetable seller who had been in that market for many years. People respected her because she was honest and straight to the point. She was the type that did not insult you behind your back. If she had something to say, she said it to your face. That morning, as Emily served a customer, Auntie Teresa leaned closer and spoke quietly. "My daughter," she said, "I have been wanting to ask you something." Emily turned toward her. "Yes, Auntie Teresa?" Auntie Teresa's eyes were serious, but not unkind. "You finished university," she said. "Why are you still doing this? Why are you still coming to the market every day to sell snacks?" Emily did not feel offended. She had heard the question before, and she knew it did not come from mockery. It came from concern. She wiped her hands lightly and answered simply. "Auntie," she said, "education doesn't stop me from helping my family." Auntie Teresa studied her face. Emily continued, her voice calm. "My mother works hard. My father tries. I cannot sit at home because I have a certificate. Honest work is not shameful." Auntie Teresa nodded slowly like she was tasting the truth in Emily's words. "Many people of your age will be ashamed to do this." Emily smiled, but there was no pride in it, only quiet acceptance.
"I am not ashamed. Not when my family needs me."
The day moved forward. Customers came and went. Emily sold what she could. She spoke gently to people. She laughed when someone joked with her. She helped an older woman carry a small bag without being asked. By afternoon, the sun was stronger, and the market was beginning to slow down. Emily packed up what was left and started walking home. Her legs were tired, but she didn't complain. She only wanted to get home, wash up, and maybe rest before her mother returned from work. As she entered their street, she noticed a familiar sound. A car door. A heavy one. Emily lifted her eyes and saw it. The Azakiwe family SUV was parked near their side of the wall, shining like it had just been polished, and stepping out of it was Sandra Azakiwe. Sandra's arms were filled with luxury shopping bags, thick paper bags with bold designs, the kind of bags people carried just to be seen. She looked fresh and dressed like she was coming from somewhere important. Then Sandra's eyes landed on Emily, and as always, her face changed. That look Emily knew too well appeared: mockery, confidence, and enjoyment. Because this was not the first time. Sandra had shamed Emily before. She had laughed at her before. She had spoken to her like she was nothing before. Sandra's lips curved into a smile that wasn't kind.
Ah, the snack seller.
Emily's grip tightened slightly on her tray, but she did not respond. Sandra stepped forward like she was walking into a performance.
You still smell like frying oil. Can't you at least try to look clean before walking on the same street with other people?
Emily kept her eyes lowered. Sandra laughed softly. Every day it's the same thing, she continued. Always carrying that tray like that is your future. Emily could feel heat rising in her chest, not because Sandra's words were new, but because they still hurt, especially when they were said like entertainment. Sandra shifted the bags in her hand and looked Emily up and down. And see you, she added. This your wrapper, this your tired face. Do you even look at yourself in the mirror? Emily did not answer. For a second, Sandra seemed annoyed that Emily was not fighting back. Then she leaned closer, lowering her voice just enough to make the next words cut deeper.
Your mother is still washing plates in our house. Tell her to wash them well. We don't like stains.
Emily's throat tightened. That one was not just an insult to her. It was an insult to her mother, the woman who woke before sunrise, the woman who worked in 2 places in one day, the woman who entered that mansion quietly and still came home tired. Emily felt the sting behind her eyes, but she did not allow tears to fall. She blinked once, steadying herself. Sandra waited, expecting a reaction. But Emily said nothing. She simply adjusted the tray in her hands and walked past Sandra, quietly and carefully, the way her mother had taught her. Because her mother always said, silence is better than useless fights. And as Emily walked away, Sandra stood there with her expensive bags and her expensive pride, smiling like she had won something. But Emily kept moving. Not because she was weak, because she was holding herself together. And sometimes that takes more strength than shouting back. She kept walking until she reached their little gate. Her hands were steady, but her chest felt tight, like something heavy was sitting there. She entered the compound quietly, set the tray down, and went straight inside. The house was calm, but her mind was not. Sandra's words kept replaying in her head, not because they were true, but because they were cruel. Your mother is still washing plates in our house. Emily washed her hands and sat for a moment on the edge of the small sofa in their living room. She told herself not to cry. Not because tears were shameful, but because she did not want to waste her strength on someone who enjoyed hurting people. A little later, Blessing returned from the mansion. Her shoulders dropped the moment she entered, like she had been holding herself up all day and only now remembered she was tired. She greeted Emily softly and went to wash up. Emily looked at her mother and felt something deep inside her. Anger, sadness, love, all mixed together. She wanted to tell her. She wanted to say, Sandra insulted you again. But she held it back. Her mother already carried too much. That evening passed quietly. They ate simple food. They spoke about small things. Blessing asked Emily about the market. Emily answered gently, leaving out the part that would add pain to the day. Then night came. The kind of night where families sit close to their television, not because they are relaxing, but because they want to feel connected to something bigger than their worries. In the Nwosu home, the TV was not large. The sound sometimes cracked, but it worked. Blessing turned it on and sat down beside Emily. When the national broadcast began, the room became still. The screen showed the face of the president, serious, calm, speaking with the kind of authority that made people listen. And then he made the announcement that shook the whole country in one breath. He said there would be a grand masked ball, a special event where young women would be invited to meet his only son. His son's name was Daniel. The president explained that Daniel wanted to marry, and instead of choosing based on appearances or family background, he wanted to meet women in a way that removed first impressions. That was why the ball would be masked. No one would be judged by their looks, their clothes, or their status. The invitation was open to women between the ages of 18 and 30, rich or poor, educated or not. What mattered most, the president said, was the heart. Emily felt her mother's hand tighten slightly around her own as they listened. Blessing's eyes were wide, not with greed, but with shock, like she was trying to understand if what she was hearing was real. Emily sat quietly, her face calm but her mind moving fast. A masked ball. The president's son. A chance for women like her to enter a place they would normally only see on television. When the broadcast ended, the room stayed silent for a moment. Blessing exhaled slowly. Emily looked at her mother and gave a small, unsure smile, as if to say, "Can you believe this?" But before they could speak much, voices rose beyond their wall. Because at that same moment, inside the Azikiwe mansion, the announcement did not land gently. It landed like fuel. In the Azikiwe living room, Susan Azikiwe was already on her feet the moment the president finished speaking. Her eyes lit up like she had been waiting for an opportunity like this all her life.
Do you hear that? Do you hear what the president just said? Yeah?
She turned toward her husband, Richard Azikiwe, who sat back with a calm smile. Richard did not jump up like Susan. He only smiled slowly, the kind of smile that showed he was already calculating. "This is our chance," he said. Susan's excitement grew. "Our chance," she repeated. "Richard, this is more than chance. This is power. If Sandra marries Daniel, do you know what that means?" Richard's eyes narrowed slightly, thoughtful. "It means we will not just be wealthy," he said. "We will be untouchable." Susan nodded hard, like she was agreeing with a plan that had already formed in her head.
Sandra must marry him. She must.
Richard leaned forward, his voice low but confident. "We will do everything," he said. "Everything that is needed." Susan began pacing, already thinking of gowns, cameras, attention, headlines. "She will have the best dress," she said. "The best jewelry, the best entrance. People must look at her and know she belongs there." Richard's smile stayed. "We will secure her position," he said, "no matter what it takes." And upstairs, in her luxury room, Sandra was still scrolling on her phone, unaware that her parents had just decided her future like it was a business deal. While next door in the small Nwosu house, Emily sat quietly beside her mother, still smelling faintly of the day's hustle, listening to the same announcement. Two families had heard the same message, but they heard it differently. One heard a blessing, the other heard a ladder, and both were already stepping toward it. The night did not end with the president's announcement. It only started something. Inside the Azikiwe mansion, Susan and Richard kept talking long after the television went silent. Their voices moved from excitement to planning, from planning to certainty, like they had already seen the future and simply needed to arrange it. But next door,
Emily, that
in the
ball,
Norsu home,
would you like to go?
the mood was different. It was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that came from fear, but the kind that came from thinking. Blessing sat on the sofa with her wrapper pulled close around her body. The work of the day was still on her face. Her hands looked tired. Even her eyes looked tired. Emily sat beside her, her back straight, her thoughts heavy. For a few minutes, they only listened to the sound of the night. Faraway voices, a dog barking, the soft hum of electricity. Then Blessing turned toward her daughter. "Emily," she said gently, "that ball. Would you like to go?" The question came softly, like Blessing was careful not to put pressure on her. Emily blinked. She had not expected her mother to ask it out loud. "Mummy," she said, almost immediately, "how can I go? We don't have money for those kinds of things." Blessing nodded slowly, like she expected that answer. Blessing knew how much things cost. She knew what people wore to events like that. She knew the way the world treated women who entered rich places without looking rich. Emily added quietly, even transport alone will be a problem. And clothes, and everything. Blessing sighed, her eyes dropping to her lap. She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't know where to start. That was when a voice came from the corner of the room. Emily. Emily turned. Her father, Ben Nwosu, had been sitting quietly on a small chair, repairing one of his old tools. Ben was a simple man, not loud, not dramatic. He didn't talk too much, but when he spoke, people listened because he chose his words carefully. He put the tool down and looked straight at his daughter. "My child," he said, "you are worth more than money." Emily's throat tightened slightly. Ben continued, his voice steady. "I know we are not rich. I know we do not have what others have. But if you truly want to go, we will find a way." Blessing looked at her husband, surprised but touched. Emily stared at her father, unsure. Ben's eyes softened. "This world likes to measure people,"
you are worth
he
more
said.
than money.
"They measure them by clothes, by cars, by houses. But those things do not decide who you are. Your value is inside you." Emily lowered her
child,
eyes,
you
feeling
are worth
something
more
warm
than
and
money.
painful at the same time. She did not say yes. She did not say no. She only nodded slowly, like she was holding the thought carefully in her heart. Across the wall, in the Azikiwe mansion, the same night had already become a strategy meeting. Richard Azikiwe was not the type of man who relied on luck. He believed opportunities were taken, not waited for. The next morning, he began making calls. Not ordinary calls. Calls that only people with power and connections could make. He spoke to friends in high places. He spoke to men who owed him favors. He spoke to people who liked money too much to refuse his voice. By afternoon, he had gathered enough information to build a plan. He came home, sat with Susan, and spoke with confidence.
I found out some things about Daniel.
What did you find?
Richard counted the points like they were items on a list. "He studied abroad," he said first. "He is used to class and polish." Susan nodded quickly. "He loves books," Richard continued. "Deep conversations, intelligent talk." Susan's eyes widened, already thinking ahead. "And he hates arrogance," Richard added, his voice sharpening slightly. "That one is important." Susan paused. "Hates arrogance?" she repeated. "Yes," Richard said. "He doesn't like women who are too loud or too proud." Susan sat back for a moment, processing.
Then Sandra has to be careful.
We will shape her. We will prepare her.
He added another detail, lowering his voice like it was a secret. "And people don't even know his face well. He is private. He doesn't move around like other rich children. That means he will be masked properly and guarded." Susan smiled. "Even better," she said. "We will position Sandra where he must notice her." Richard's eyes held the same confident look. "That is the idea." That same day, Susan placed an order. Not from any local shop. She ordered a dress from abroad, something expensive, something that would turn heads before Sandra even spoke. The amount was ridiculous, millions. But Susan didn't blink. "This is not just a dress," she said. "This is an investment." Sandra, of course, was happy to be the center of it all. In the days that followed, her life became a long routine of beauty and luxury. She moved from salon to salon, sitting under dryers, fixing hair, doing nails, treating her skin like it was a priceless item that must never look tired. She went to spas and massage centers where soft music played and people spoke to her like she was royalty. She walked through luxury stores, picking shoes and bags like she was choosing fruit. And because Richard and Susan wanted perfection, they hired more people. A posture teacher was brought in, an older woman with strict eyes who trained Sandra on how to walk, how to sit, how to smile without looking desperate. A coach was also hired, someone to teach Sandra how to sound deep. They fed her fancy quotes, lines from books she had never read, words that could impress a man who truly loved literature. Susan coached her every day like a trainer preparing a fighter. "Talk about foreign trips," Susan would say. Sandra would roll her eyes but listen. "Mention your private schooling," Susan added. Make him see you are refined. Sandra would nod, adjusting her hair. And the lifestyle, Susan finished. He must know you belong to that level. You cannot look cheap. You cannot sound common. Sandra would smile, pleased with herself. Because in Sandra's mind, this was not about love. It was about winning. And while the Azikiwes were preparing Sandra like a trophy, Emily sat next door in a small house, still unsure of what to do, still living her normal life, while a big invitation hung in the air like a question waiting for an answer. The next morning, Blessing returned to the Azikiwe mansion the way she always did, quietly, through the staff entrance, with her head down and her thoughts carefully hidden. The house was already awake, not because anyone was cooking or cleaning, but because preparation had started. Blessing could feel it in the way people spoke, in the way footsteps moved faster than usual, in the way Susan's voice carried urgency even when she was not shouting. Blessing began her work as normal. She swept, she wiped, she arranged things that were already arranged. She moved through the back corridor and into the main part of the house with the careful steps of someone who knew she did not belong there, no matter how many years she had worked inside it. As she cleaned near the sitting room, she heard voices. Susan Azikiwe was talking to someone. Blessing could not see them properly from where she stood, but she could hear enough. Susan's voice was firm, the kind of voice that did not accept maybe. "I don't want Sandra to look ordinary," Susan said. "Everything must be perfect. Her image is everything. People judge what they see first." A softer voice replied, polite, professional. Blessing guessed it was one of the tutors Susan had brought into the house. Someone paid to teach Sandra how to move and speak like a woman who believed the world was hers. Susan continued. She must walk into that place and make people turn their heads, not because she is noisy, but because she looks like she belongs there. Blessing paused for half a second, her cloth still in her hand. Then she continued wiping, as if she had not heard anything. Not long after, she heard Richard's voice from another room, lower than Susan's, but sharper. "Yes," Richard said into his phone. "Place her where he must pass. Strategic placement. He has to notice her before anyone else." Blessing's stomach tightened. Strategic placement. It sounded like they were planning for a business deal, not a marriage. Blessing did not speak. She did not ask questions. She did not go home to repeat what she heard. She simply carried it inside her like a stone and whispered a prayer in her heart. "God, please, protect my daughter." Because she knew something most people did not know. She had seen how seriously the Azikiwes were preparing. She had seen Sandra's arrogance up close, and she knew rich people did not like to lose. While Blessing cleaned the Azikiwe mansion, Emily's morning was unfolding differently. Emily still didn't care about marrying Daniel. The truth was simple. She did not wake up dreaming of power. She did not sit at the market imagining herself in a palace. She only wanted peace, a good job one day, and a life where her parents would not suffer so much. But the neighborhood had its own mind. People loved Emily. They loved her because she was kind without pretending, because she greeted people properly, because she helped children with schoolwork even when she was tired, because she treated old people with respect, like they were her own family. So when the president announced the ball, many people saw it as more than a party. They saw it as a chance for Emily. Not just to marry a president's son, but to be seen. To stand somewhere people like her were usually not allowed to stand. That morning, as Emily was at home, someone knocked at their door. It was Auntie Teresa. Auntie Teresa entered with purpose, holding a neatly folded piece of wax fabric in her arms like it was something sacred. Emily stood up quickly. "Auntie Teresa, good morning." "Good morning, my daughter," Auntie Teresa replied, and her eyes went straight to Emily's face. Then she brought out the fabric. Emily's breath caught. The wax was beautiful, rich pattern, bright but tasteful, the kind of cloth that could turn into something special if the right hands touched it. "Auntie," Emily began, already shaking her head. Auntie Teresa lifted her hand to stop her. "I did not bring this here for you to argue with me," she said. Emily's voice softened. "But this is too much." Auntie Teresa's face hardened slightly, not in anger, but in seriousness. "This cloth," she said, "I kept it for my own daughter's wedding." Emily's eyes widened. Then you should keep it, Auntie. Please. Auntie Teresa stepped closer. Emily, listen to me, she said. For years, you have helped my children with their schoolwork. You sat with them when I was too tired. You never asked me for money. You never made me feel ashamed. Emily's eyes filled. Auntie Teresa pushed the fabric into her hands. Now it is my turn, she said. You will go to that ball. Emily's tears fell before she could stop them. No, Auntie Teresa, I can't take this, she whispered. You will take it, Auntie Teresa replied firmly. Sometimes help is not something you reject. It is something you accept with gratitude. Blessing's husband, Ben Nwosu, watched quietly from the side, his face full of emotion. And just when Emily thought that was the end of it, another visitor arrived. An older man walked into their compound slowly, holding a measuring tape around his neck. This was Papa Maurice Okonkwo. Papa Maurice was the tailor everyone in that neighborhood respected. He was old, but his eyes were sharp. His hands were steady. People said he could sew a simple cloth and make it look like something meant for a queen. He greeted them and went straight to the point. I heard you were going to the ball, he said, looking at Emily. Emily wiped her face quickly. Sir, they are only encouraging me. I don't even know if I should go. Papa Maurice nodded once. You will go, he said simply, and I will sew your dress. Emily's mouth opened slightly. Papa Maurice, we cannot pay. He lifted his hand. You will not pay, he said. Blessing's voice trembled. Papa Maurice. He turned to her gently. This girl has been good to people, he said. Let people be good to her too. Then he looked back at Emily. I will make it simple, he said, but it will be elegant, something that reflects what is inside you. Not noise, not show, just beauty with meaning. Blessing covered her mouth with her hand as tears rushed into her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she felt surrounded, supported, like the world had not completely forgotten them. These people, she whispered to Ben, they are our real family. Emily stood there holding the waxed cloth, her shoulders shaking slightly as she cried. Auntie Teresa touched her arm. You are not going for yourself alone, she said softly. You are going for all of us that believe in you. That night, Blessing sat down slowly, her tired face softening with emotion. Then she looked at Emily with a seriousness that came from experience. My daughter, she said, it will not be easy. Emily nodded. I know, Mummy. Blessing hesitated and then added carefully, I have seen how Sandra is preparing. I heard things today. They are taking it very seriously. Rich people do not like to be defeated. Emily held her mother's hand. Mummy, she said gently, I'm not going there for attention. I'm not going there to compete. Blessing watched her. Emily continued, her voice steady. I'm going because people believe in me. I want to make them happy. I want to honor their kindness. That is all. Blessing's eyes filled again. She pulled Emily into her arms and held her tightly, like she was trying to protect her from a world that could be cruel. Outside, the Azikiwe mansion was preparing with money and strategy. Inside the Nwosu home, they were preparing with love and community. And Emily, for the first time, made a decision. She would go. Richard Azikiwe treated the whole matter like a project that must succeed. He did not rely on chance. He did not believe in maybe. If something could be controlled, he wanted it controlled. A few days before the ball, he got more information from his contacts. He learned that Daniel would be heavily masked and closely protected, not just by ordinary security, but by men trained to keep people away, trained to stop anyone who tried to get too close. When Richard heard that, he did not panic. He smiled, because to him, it meant one thing. The movement of Daniel would be planned. And if Daniel's movement was planned, then Richard could plan around it too. That same evening, he made a call, not to a friend, to someone inside the planning team of the ball, someone who had access, someone who liked money. Richard spoke calmly, like he was discussing something normal. There is something I need, he said, a small favor. The person on the other end hesitated, but Richard did not stop. He mentioned an amount, a thick amount, and suddenly, the hesitation became agreement. By the time Richard ended the call, the deal was done. One of the organizers had been bribed, and Sandra would be placed at a strategic entrance, a spot where Daniel must pass, whether he liked it or not. Richard leaned back in his chair, satisfied. Now, he murmured to himself, he will see her first. Susan Azikiwe was just as involved. If Richard handled the plan, Susan handled the performance. She sat with Sandra almost every day, correcting her tone, her smile, the way she moved her hands. The night before the ball, Susan entered Sandra's room with the seriousness of someone preparing a bride for battle. "Sandra," she said, "listen carefully." Sandra sat on the edge of her bed, already dressed in her robe, already surrounded by makeup kits and hair tools. Susan began, counting her words like instructions. "First, smile, but not too much," she said. "Too much smiling makes you look cheap and desperate." Sandra nodded slowly. "Second, act mysterious," Susan continued. "Don't talk too much. Let him feel like he has to chase your attention." Sandra's lips curved slightly. That part sounded like something she enjoyed. Susan moved closer. "And third," she said, lowering her voice, "you will tell him you do charity. You care about orphans. You care about society. You have a good heart." Sandra frowned. "Mummy," she said, "I have never done charity in my life." Susan did not blink. "That doesn't matter," she replied flatly. "He won't know." Sandra hesitated. "But what if he asks questions?" Susan waved her hand lightly. "You will answer smartly," she said. "You will speak like someone who cares. People don't always check these things. They believe what they see and hear." Sandra gave a small nod, still unsure but not brave enough to argue. Susan's eyes sharpened. "This is not the time to start acting innocent," she said. "Do you want to marry Daniel or not?" Sandra lifted her chin. "I do." "Then do what I say," Susan replied. That same night, Sandra's room turned into something else entirely. A whole glam team arrived at the Azikiwe house. Makeup artists, hairstylists, assistants carrying boxes and bags. The room looked like a studio set. Lights were set up. Brushes were arranged like surgical tools. Hair products lined the table. Everyone moved around Sandra as if she was a celebrity preparing for a red carpet event. Sandra sat in the middle of it all, calm and confident, enjoying the attention like it was her natural environment. Outside her door, Susan watched with satisfaction. "This is how a future presidential wife should look," she murmured. Next door, the Nwosu home was quiet. No studio lights, no makeup team, no assistants rushing around. Just love, patience, and small hands doing their best. Emily stood inside their small bathroom, wearing a simple cloth wrapper as her mother prepared her. The bathroom was narrow. The mirror was small. The light was not bright. But Blessing worked carefully, like she was handling something precious. She parted Emily's hair gently, smoothing it with her fingers. Emily's eyes met her mother's in the mirror. Blessing's hands were steady, but her face showed emotion she was trying to hide. Slowly, she gathered Emily's hair and styled it into a sleek high ponytail, neat and beautiful. The kind of hairstyle that made a woman look graceful without trying too hard. A knock came at the door. Auntie Teresa stepped in, followed by two other women from the neighborhood. They carried small gifts, not expensive, but meaningful. One of them opened her palm and revealed tiny white beads. "Emily," Auntie Teresa said softly, "we brought something to add to your hair." Emily's eyes softened. Blessing carefully slid the beads into the ponytail. Not too many, just enough to shimmer gently when light touched them. It was simple, but it was beautiful. When Blessing was done, she stepped back and stared at her daughter for a moment. Emily looked grown, not like someone trying to be rich, like someone who had always been worthy. Blessing's throat tightened. She reached out and held Emily's hands. "My daughter," she said quietly. "Remember who you are." Emily nodded. Blessing continued, her voice trembling slightly. "Whether you return with a prince or you return alone, you are still my pride." Emily blinked quickly, fighting tears. Blessing lifted her chin gently. "Your value is in your heart," she said. "Not in any man." You do not need to change yourself to win anybody, do you hear me? Emily's voice came out soft. Yes, Mummy. Blessing squeezed her hands. Do not let anyone make you feel small, she said. Not because of money, not because of clothes, not because of where you come from. Emily nodded again, this time stronger. I won't forget, she promised. I will not forget myself. Blessing pulled her close and hugged her, holding her like she was trying to pour courage into her body. Outside the wall, Sandra was being dressed with money. Inside the wall, Emily was being dressed with love. And the ball, the night that would test hearts, was now only a few hours away. By evening, the whole country seemed to be holding its breath. The presidential residence was bright and beautiful, lit up like a place that did not know hardship. Soft music floated through the air. Lights shone from every corner, reflecting on polished floors and decorated walls. The entrance alone looked like something people only saw in films. Outside, cars rolled in one after another. And inside, the crowd grew. Young women arrived in masks of different shapes and colors, all dressed carefully, all walking with the same quiet hope in their hearts. Maybe tonight will be my night. Some came with confidence, some came with prayer, some came with determination that looked like hunger. They all wanted one thing: Daniel's attention. The noise at the gate increased when the Azikiwe car arrived. It didn't arrive gently. It arrived loudly. The SUV moved like it owned the road, and Richard stepped out first as if the whole event was waiting for him to show up. "Move!" he said sharply, waving people aside. Security looked at him, but Richard didn't care. He was used to making space for himself. Then Sandra stepped out. For a moment, the air changed. Her dress was heavy gold, the kind of gold that did not try to be modest. It shone under the lights, catching attention like a spotlight. Her jewelry glittered. Her mask was made of crystals, bright enough to make some people blink. Heads turned. Some women looked at her with admiration. Some looked at her with silent judgment. Because it was beautiful, yes. But it was also too much. Sandra stood tall in it, satisfied with the reactions. She didn't even need to see Daniel yet. She was already enjoying the power of being noticed. Susan and Richard followed behind her, proud, like they had already won something. Meanwhile, inside the residence, women flowed toward the hall, trying to position themselves in places where they might be seen. Sandra moved with purpose, scanning faces, scanning suits, scanning every masked man like she was trying to find the one person she came for. Richard stayed close, watching the movement like a businessman watching a market. They were not there for romance. They were there for results. An hour later, a simple taxi stopped at the gate. No loud horn, no dramatic entrance, just a quiet arrival. Emily stepped out. Her wax dress fit her beautifully. It was elegant without shouting. The cut was modern, but the fabric still carried tradition. Her mask was simple, made with care, sitting lightly on her face and drawing attention to her calm eyes. She looked around as she walked in, and for a moment she forgot herself. The place was too bright, too polished, too perfect. Emily did not rush into the crowd. She didn't know how to compete in a place like this, and she wasn't even sure she wanted to. So she stayed quiet, walking close to the side, watching people like someone observing a world she didn't fully understand. It was beautiful, yes, but it was also intimidating. Then near the main staircase, something happened. A woman, an old woman, slipped. It was not a dramatic fall, but it was enough. A small bag flew from her hand and opened on the floor, a few items scattered on the polished tiles. For a moment, the music continued and people kept moving. Women walked past her as if she was part of the floor. Some glanced down and kept going. Some didn't even look, because the old woman did not look like one of them. She wasn't dressed as elegantly as the guests. She looked simple, almost like she didn't belong there. And in a place where everyone was trying to catch Daniel's attention, nobody wanted to waste time on someone who looked unimportant. Sandra saw the woman. She looked at her briefly, then turned away like the woman was a disturbance. She muttered under her breath, loud enough for a few nearby people to hear. "Poor old people should stay at home," she said, "instead of coming here to constitute nuisance to society." Then she kept walking, her dress brushing the floor like she was too important for human problems. Emily heard it, and something inside her tightened. Before she could even think, her feet moved. She rushed forward. "Madam," she said, kneeling immediately. She didn't care about her dress. She didn't care that people could be watching. She didn't care that she was here for a ball. She helped the old woman sit up gently. "Are you okay?" Emily asked, her voice full of worry. "Did you hit your head? Are you feeling pain?" The old woman looked up slowly, surprised. Emily quickly began picking up the items on the floor, small things that had spilled from the bag. She gathered them carefully and placed them back inside. Then she helped the woman stand. "Come," Emily said softly. "Let me take you to a seat." She guided the woman to a chair close by, sitting her down with care like she was her own mother. "Please," Emily said, leaning closer, "tell me where you feel pain. I can call a doctor. We can even go to the hospital if you want. I can take you." The old woman's eyes warmed. She studied Emily's face like she was trying to read something deeper than the words. Then she smiled, slow and gentle. It was not the smile of a random guest. It was the smile of someone who had just seen something rare. "Thank you, my child," the woman said softly. Emily still looked worried. "No, madam," she insisted. "We should call a doctor. You fell. You might be hurt inside even if you don't feel it yet." The old woman shook her head lightly. "You are kind," she said. "Very kind." Emily stood up halfway, still ready to call for help. But the woman reached out and held her hand. "Tell me your name," she asked. Emily hesitated. "My name is Emily, Ma." The woman nodded slowly, still smiling. Emily tried again, more urgent. "Please, let me call someone. I don't want anything to happen to you." The woman's voice became calm and firm. "Oh, doctor," she said gently. "Your presence is enough." Emily froze slightly, confused. The woman patted her hand like she was calming a child. "Sit with me for a moment," she said. "Just sit." Emily sat, still uneasy. The old woman looked around at the crowd, at the masked women, the shining dresses, the hungry eyes. Then she looked back at Emily and spoke quietly. "You were ready to leave all this," she said, "and take me to the hospital." Emily swallowed. "It's just a ball," she replied softly. "Your health is more important." The old woman's eyes widened slightly, as if she had not expected such a simple answer. What nobody knew, what Emily could not even imagine, was that this woman was not ordinary. She was Madame Florence Adeyemi, the president's mother, disguised, watching, observing the young women who wanted to marry her son. But nobody in that hall knew that. To everyone else, she was just an old woman who fell. And that was the whole point. Madame Florence looked at Emily again, this time with something like shock and admiration mixed together. She had seen many beautiful women, but she had not seen many hearts like this. So as the music continued and people rushed past them chasing their own dreams, Madame Florence sat quietly beside Emily, listening to her, studying her, and holding on to the one thought that mattered most. She kept Emily's hand in hers for a moment longer, as if she didn't want to let go of the feeling Emily had brought into her heart. Emily still looked worried. "Madam, are you sure you're fine?" she asked again, her eyes searching the older woman's face. Madame Florence nodded gently. "I'm fine, my child. Thank you." Emily exhaled slowly, but she still didn't relax completely. She sat close, ready to stand up again if the woman suddenly felt dizzy. The music in the hall continued, soft, smooth, flowing like it didn't know anything serious had just happened. Around them, women moved in groups, laughing too loudly, scanning the room, leaning close to masked men, hoping to be noticed. But Emily stayed where she was. Her mind was not on who was watching her. Her mind was on the woman beside her. What Emily did not know was that someone else had been watching too. From a short distance away, a masked young man stood quietly, dressed in a simple but perfectly tailored suit. Nothing about him shouted wealth, yet everything about him looked expensive. He had been surrounded earlier. Women had circled him like they were afraid he would disappear. Some tried to guess his identity. Some tried to force conversation. Some laughed at jokes that weren't funny just to keep his attention. But he had not been paying attention to any of them. because his eyes had caught something that mattered more than flirting. He had seen the old woman fall. He had seen people ignore her. He had seen Sandra look at her with disgust and walk away. And he had seen Emily, quiet Emily, rush forward without thinking twice. He watched her kneel, watched her pick up the scattered items, watched her offer to take the woman to the hospital like the ball meant nothing compared to a human life. And in that moment, something in his chest shifted. The young man took a slow step forward, then another, until he stood close enough to speak. Madame Florence looked up first. Her eyes met his, and a small knowing smile touched her lips. Emily looked up too. The man's mask hid part of his face, but his eyes were clear, deep, calm, and strangely familiar in the way they held attention. He bowed his head slightly, polite. "Mademoiselle," he said gently, his voice controlled, "would you honor me with a dance?" Emily blinked, startled. She glanced quickly at Madame Florence, then back at the man. She began, unsure. Then she said the truth. "I don't dance very well, sir." The man's eyes softened, like he was relieved she didn't pretend. "That's okay," he said quietly. "I mainly want to talk." Emily hesitated again. Madame Florence gave her a small, encouraging nod, as if saying, "Go, I'm fine." So Emily stood up slowly. The young man offered his hand. Emily placed hers in his, careful, respectful. And they moved toward the dance floor. The music was gentle, the lights were warm. Couples swayed slowly, masks shining, perfumes mixing in the air. Emily's steps were slightly cautious at first, but the man guided her with ease, not embarrassing her, not making her feel small. "It's fine," he said softly. "Just follow my lead." Emily nodded. As they danced, there was something different about the way he spoke to her. He wasn't showing off. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was listening. "So," he asked after a moment, "what do you do?" Emily answered simply, the same way she always did. "I help my family at the market," she said. "We sell snacks." He didn't laugh. He didn't make that look people sometimes made when they heard market, as if the word reduced her value. He only nodded like it was normal. "I studied education," Emily added. "I'm looking for work in my field." The young man's eyes held hers. "Education," he repeated softly. "That means you like people." Emily smiled a little. "I like helping, yes." He was quiet for a moment, then he asked, "And your family?" Emily's voice softened. "My mother works very hard, my father too. We manage." The way she said it wasn't dramatic, it was honest. The man's expression didn't change much, but something passed in his eyes, respect, maybe even admiration. Emily looked at him properly. "And you?" she asked. "What do you do?" He paused, just a beat. Then he said carefully, "I work for the government." It was vague, and Emily noticed. But she didn't push. She simply nodded, accepting it the way she accepted many things in life, without forcing. They continued dancing, and the more they spoke, the more the conversation moved away from the ball itself and into deeper things. They talked about values, about what matters when nobody is watching, about dreams that don't always come true quickly, about family, how it can break you, and how it can also be the reason you survive. Emily spoke gently, without trying to sound important. The man listened like every word mattered. Not far away, Sandra was still moving through the hall like a queen searching for her crown. She jumped from group to group, laughing, leaning in, trying to charm any masked man who looked influential. She smiled in the way her mother taught her, controlled, polished, not too much. She dropped fancy lines she had memorized, hoping one of them would land in the right ears. She did not know, she did not suspect, that the man she came to trap with strategy was on the dance floor, holding the hand of the girl she mocked. Daniel and Emily kept dancing until the music began to soften and the crowd slowly started thinning out. At some point, Daniel stopped leading her around the floor and simply stood with her near the side, still talking, as if he was trying to hold on to the moment. Emily's cheeks were warm, not from the lights, but from the strange feeling of being seen in a way she wasn't used to. Not as a poor girl, not as someone's daughter, just as Emily. When the announcement finally came that the night was ending, people began to move toward the exit. Masks turned, dresses swayed, shoes clicked on the shiny floor. Emily looked towards the direction of Madame Florence and saw that the old woman was no longer sitting there. Her heart jumped slightly. "Excuse me," Emily said quickly, looking around. "The woman I was sitting with?" "She is fine," Daniel said gently, like he understood exactly who she meant. Emily looked at him, surprised. Daniel did not explain. He only held her gaze for a second, and then said softly, "She is safe." Emily nodded, still unsure, but she trusted the calmness in his voice. Then she adjusted her bag and turned slightly, ready to leave. Daniel stepped closer, his hand still lightly holding hers. "Emily," he said, almost reluctantly, "how can I see you again?" Emily hesitated. The hall was still full of eyes, the night still felt like a dream, and she knew too well how reality could wake up harshly in the morning. She gave him a small, respectful smile. "If God wills," she said simply, "we will meet again." Daniel's brows lifted slightly, like he wanted to protest, like he wanted more than faith as an answer. But before he could ask another question, Emily gently slipped her hand away. She turned and walked into the crowd. She did not run. She did not look back. She just left, quietly, the way she entered. By the time Daniel realized what had happened, she was already gone. And the worst part was not that she left. It was that he didn't even know her surname. The next day, the whole country seemed to be talking about one thing. Rumors spread like smoke. People said the president's son spent most of the ball with one mysterious girl. Some claimed she must be a foreign-trained princess. Some said she was from a powerful family and came with hidden wealth. Others insisted it was Sandra Azikiwe because Sandra herself acted like it. But the truth was simple. Daniel knew who he danced with. He just didn't know how to find her. That morning, Daniel sat with his father, President Tunde Adeyemi, in a quiet room away from cameras and noise. The president watched his son carefully, like a man who had waited a long time for this kind of conversation. Daniel spoke slowly, with a seriousness that surprised even himself.
Dad, I met someone last night. Someone? A woman, she touched my heart.
The president leaned back, silent, allowing Daniel to continue. Daniel's voice softened. She wasn't loud. She wasn't desperate. She didn't pretend. She was just real. The president listened. Then he said something that made Daniel's chest tighten. "Your mother also mentioned a special girl," the president said. "A young woman who helped her when she fell." Daniel's eyes widened. Daniel swallowed. He remembered the moment clearly. He had watched it all. "I saw it too," Daniel admitted quietly. "I saw her help my mother." The president's face softened slightly. "Then it is likely the same one," he said. Daniel nodded, but the relief didn't last. A new fear entered his voice. "Dad, I don't know her surname." The president studied him. "You didn't ask?" Daniel looked down, ashamed. "I tried. But the night ended and she left quickly. She only told me her first name." The president was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke calmly, like a man used to handling problems. "We will find her," he said, discreetly, quietly. Daniel's heart lifted slightly. The president continued. "The truth always shows itself, and if she is truly who you say she is, she will not be hard to identify." Daniel nodded, but his mind still raced, because he could already imagine the kind of games people would play once they heard the president's son had chosen someone. While Daniel was speaking with his father, Richard Azikiwe was also making calls. And unlike the president, Richard was not searching for truth. He was searching for control. He had contacts everywhere, people who listened when money spoke, people who worked close enough to hear whispers and report back. By afternoon, Richard got what he wanted. A name, not a full identity yet, but enough to shake his house. He returned home and found Susan in the living room, already restless from the rumors online. Richard's face was tight. "Susan," he said. Susan turned quickly. What is it? Richard lowered his voice. The girl Daniel spent time with. Susan leaned forward. Yes? Richard's jaw clenched. Her name is Patience, he said. Susan blinked. Patience? Richard nodded once. And she is from our neighborhood. For a second, Susan did not understand. Then her eyes widened like she had been slapped. No, she said sharply. Not that one. Richard didn't answer immediately, but his silence confirmed everything. Susan's mouth opened slightly. That poor girl next door, she whispered, almost choking on the words. The poor maid's daughter, the pauper who sells items on the street. Her voice rose with every sentence, not because she was surprised, but because she felt insulted. Richard's face hardened. We can't let poor people win against us, he said coldly. We can't allow them steal our chance. Susan stood up, shaking her head like she was trying to reject reality. This is impossible, she said. Sandra prepared. We spent money. We planned everything. Richard's eyes narrowed. Then we plan again, he said. Harder. Susan looked at him, breathing fast. Richard's voice dropped lower, dangerous with certainty. That girl will not stand in our way, he said. Not after everything. And on the other side of the wall, Emily was at home, living her normal life, not knowing that her simple kindness had just turned her into a target. Richard did not waste time. Once he heard that the girl Daniel was looking for was from their neighborhood, his pride turned into anger. And when Richard was angry, he did not shout and forget it. He planned. Quietly. Like someone arranging a trap. He started moving around, not with police or officials, but with envelopes. Money. Fresh notes packed neatly. Enough to tempt people who were tired of suffering. He went from house to house, choosing the kind of neighbors who liked gossip, the kind who complained about hardship every day, the kind who could be bought with just small help. When he sat with them, he spoke like a man offering opportunity.
Investigators will come. When they ask questions, this is what you will say. You will say Emily is a liar, a bad girl, stubborn, disrespectful.
He didn't stop there. You will tell them she has a very bad attitude, he continued, that she pretends to be humble, but she is stubborn and disrespectful. Some people hesitated. Richard slid the envelope closer. And you will say Sandra was the one who helped the old woman at the ball, he added. That Sandra is kind, charitable, the type of woman the president's son should marry. The hesitation did not last long. For some, the money spoke louder than conscience. They nodded. They promised. They accepted the envelopes like they were receiving blessings, not shame. But not everyone could be bought. When Richard approached Auntie Teresa Eza, she didn't even let him finish his sentence. She stood in front of her door, her arms folded, her eyes sharp. So this is what you're doing now? She asked. Buying mouths? Richard forced a smile. Madam Teresa, don't be emotional, it's just small talk. Just help your neighbor. Auntie Teresa cut him off. My neighbor is Emily, she said firmly. Not you. Richard's smile dropped. Auntie Teresa continued, her voice rising. That girl has helped my children when I had nothing. She has been respectful. She has been kind. And you want me to lie against her because your daughter wants power? Richard's face tightened. Auntie Teresa pointed at his envelope like it was dirt.
Carry your money and go. I will not eat blood money.
You will regret this,
he warned. Auntie Teresa didn't flinch. I have lived long enough to know what regret looks like, she said. Go. When Richard tried the same thing with Papa Maurice Okonkwo, he met an even stronger wall. Papa Maurice stood outside his small tailoring shop, his measuring tape still hanging around his neck. Richard spoke smoothly, offering money, offering persuasion. Papa Maurice listened until Richard finished. Then he spat lightly to the side, not at Richard's body but at the idea. You want me to betray that girl? Papa Maurice asked, voice calm but deadly. Richard's jaw clenched. Old man, don't make this hard. Just say what you're told when they come. Papa Maurice stepped forward slightly. Emily is a good child, he said, and I am not a hungry dog that follows any hand that throws bone. Richard's eyes flashed. You think your stubbornness will save you? He asked. Papa Maurice's eyes held his without fear. I have survived poverty, Papa Maurice said. I will survive your threats too. Richard's voice dropped into something colder. You are making enemies you can't fight, he warned. Papa Morris didn't move. And you, he replied quietly, are creating a problem you cannot buy your way out of. Richard walked away, angry but not defeated. He didn't need everybody. He just needed enough people to confuse the truth. Inside the Azikiwe mansion, Blessing was still working, still cleaning, still trying to remain invisible. But that week, something felt different. The house carried a restless energy. Susan was always on the phone. Richard's footsteps sounded heavier. Sandra was either filming herself or staring at her screen like her life depended on it. Blessing noticed bits and pieces. One day, while wiping the dining table, she overheard Richard speaking to someone. Make sure they talk, he said. Let them say she is a bad girl. Let them spoil her name. Blessing froze for half a second. She? Her heart began to beat faster. Later that same day, Blessing heard Susan complaining loudly. Imagine, that poor girl next door wants to steal Sandra's chance. Blessing's hand trembled slightly as she held the cloth. Next door. Poor girl. Blessing swallowed hard. Then she heard another line that made her stomach drop. I've already started paying people, Susan said. Let them talk. Blessing's eyes stung. Paying people? To talk against my daughter? But why? Her throat tightened with fear. Blessing returned to the back kitchen quietly, pretending she had heard nothing. She did not argue. She did not confront them. She only whispered prayers under her breath. God, please cover my child. Please cover me too. Meanwhile, Sandra was already acting like the ball had ended in her favor. She started posting online like a queen announcing her crown. I'm the chosen one, she wrote. Watch and see. I will become First Lady. She posted edited pictures, fake photos made to look like she was dancing with Daniel. The man's face was unclear, but Sandra didn't care. People would share it. People would talk. Rumors would grow. And that was the goal. Her friends commented with excitement. Some people congratulated her. Some people doubted. But Sandra enjoyed it all, because attention, to her, was power. On the other side of the wall, Emily returned to her normal routine. She woke up early. She helped with the snacks. She went to the market. She greeted people warmly. She served customers with respect, as if nothing special had happened. But inside her, something had changed. She carried the memory of the ball like a small light in her heart. Not as a fantasy, just as a moment where someone treated her like she mattered. And even though she expected nothing, her eyes sometimes drifted into silence, as if she was remembering a voice, a look, a calm hand guiding her on the dance floor. Blessing noticed. One evening, after returning from the mansion, Blessing watched Emily arrange things quietly in the kitchen. Her daughter looked different. Not proud, not loud, just thoughtful. Blessing finally asked gently,
Emily, you have been quiet since that night.
I met someone.
She admitted softly. Blessing's chest tightened. Who? Emily shook her head. I don't know who he truly is, she said. He said he works for the government. He was different. Blessing studied her daughter's face. Emily's voice dropped even lower. He was kind, Mummy, she said. He listened. Blessing felt fear crawl into her heart, not because kindness was bad, but because she knew this world. A world where rich people played games. A world where poor people were easily crushed. She held her daughter's hand tightly and said nothing. But in her mind, her prayer became stronger. Because now she understood. Something had started. And the Azikiwes were already trying to destroy it before it could grow. Blessing did not sleep well that night. She lay on her mattress with her eyes open, listening to the quiet sounds of the house. Emily was asleep beside her, breathing softly, unaware of how heavy her mother's thought had become. Blessing kept thinking about the things she had heard in the Azikiwe house. The bribing, the lies, the way Susan spoke about her daughter like Emily was not human. And even though Blessing had tried to remain calm, one fear kept returning again and again. What if people believed them? 3 days after the ball, that fear stepped into the street. A group of official vehicles arrived in the neighborhood. Not the kind that came to greet people. The kind that came to ask questions. Men in formal shirts, serious faces and notebooks in hand moved from house to house. Some wore ID cards. Some stood back, observing quietly. Their eyes were trained to notice lies even when people smiled. The investigators had come. News spread quickly, and within minutes residents began peeping from windows and gathering at corners, whispering like the street itself had turned into a courtroom. The investigators started interviewing people one by one. Some neighbors were ready, the ones Richard had paid. They spoke with confidence like they had rehearsed. "That Emily girl," one woman said with a dramatic shake of the head. "She is not what she pretends to be." Another man added quickly. "Very bad attitude. She acts humble, but she is stubborn and disrespectful." A third neighbor leaned in, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "She is a liar. She just wants to use this opportunity to enter big people's life." The investigators wrote everything down, but they didn't only listen to words. They watched faces. They watched how people spoke. They watched how some neighbors looked away quickly after talking, like shame was following them. Then they met the ones who could not be bought. When the investigators stood before Auntie Teresa Eze, she spoke without fear. "That girl you are talking about," she said firmly, "is one of the best children in this neighborhood." They asked, "How do you know?" Auntie Teresa's voice didn't shake. "She has never insulted anybody. People are lying because they were paid." The investigators looked up sharply at that. "Paid?" one of them asked. Auntie Teresa nodded. "Yes, ask around. People have been collecting envelopes." The investigators wrote again. Then they spoke to Papa Maurice Okonkwo. Papa Maurice did not waste words. "I know what truth looks like," he said, "and I know what dirty money sounds like. Emily is not the girl they are describing." He pointed lightly down the street. "Some people here will sell their mouths for money," he said, "but not all of us." As the questioning continued, the investigators began to notice something clear. The stories did not match. One group spoke like they were reading from the same script. Another group spoke from experience. Small details, real moments, contradictions started to show like cracks in a wall. By the end of their street interviews, the investigation had narrowed. The search was no longer a wide net. It was now focused on two names. Two young women, Emily Nwosu, Sandra Azikiwe. And so the investigators went to the Azikiwe mansion. At the Azikiwe home, Susan welcomed them with a smile that was too perfect. The sitting room looked staged. Everything was shining. Even the air smelled like perfume. Susan spoke first, confidently. "I'm sure you are here because of the ball," she said, sitting upright like a woman who had nothing to hide. "It was my daughter Sandra who helped the old woman." Sandra sat beside her, dressed neatly, her posture controlled, exactly how her tutors had taught her. She smiled gently. "Yes," Sandra said. "I've always loved helping people, especially the elderly. I care about society. I have a soft heart." The lead investigator looked at her carefully. Then he asked, calmly, "So you helped her near the main staircase?" Sandra nodded quickly. "Yes," Susan added. "We raised her well. Charity is part of her nature." The investigator didn't argue. He simply opened a file on his lap. "Madam," he said to Susan, "we have CCTV footage from the residence." Susan's smile froze slightly. The investigator continued, his voice firm. "And we also have confirmation from Madam Florence Adeyemi herself." That sentence landed like a slap. Susan blinked. "Confirmation?" The investigator nodded. "We showed her several photographs," he said. "Different girls from the hall, different angles. And she identified the exact girl who helped her." Sandra's throat moved as she swallowed. Susan forced a laugh. Maybe she was confused. The investigator shook his head slowly. "She was not confused," he said. "She picked the girl confidently, more than once." Richard Azikiwe, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "This is nonsense," he said sharply. That poor family next door is trying to steal my daughter's opportunity. The lead investigator turned to him. "Sir," he said, "lying to deceive the presidency is a serious crime." Richard's eyes flashed. "I am not lying." The investigator's voice remained calm, but his words were heavy. "We have enough evidence to know what happened at the ball," he said, "and we also have reports of attempted bribery in this neighborhood." Susan's face turned pale. Richard tried to stand firm, but for the first time his confidence shook slightly. He forced out a final sentence, bitter and proud. "The poor always want to steal what belongs to the rich," he said. "They want to win against us." The investigator closed his file slowly. "We will continue our work," he said. "But remember this, truth will win." Then they stood up and left. Before evening, the neighborhood received another shock. News broke quickly. The president and his son would come personally to visit the two families connected to the investigation. Both families, meaning the Azikiwes and the Nwosus. That announcement turned the street into a different world. Security arrived early the next morning. Roads were blocked. People gathered behind barriers. Phones came out. Necks stretched. Everyone wanted to see. At the Azikiwe mansion, chaos began immediately. Susan acted like a hurricane. "Clean everything. Bring flowers. Arrange the chairs. Where is the buffet?" Richard moved around, giving orders too, his voice sharp, his face tight with pressure. Sandra was dressed again, like a special event was happening inside her room. A new, extravagant dress, heavy makeup, hair and perfume and perfect nails. The whole house felt like a performance being prepared. Next door, the Nwosu home stayed simple. Blessing swept the living room quietly. Ben arranged the small chairs they had. They prepared coffee, not fancy, just warm and welcoming. Emily wore a simple outfit. No noise, no overdoing. She stood in the corner of the room, feeling her heart beat faster than usual. Ben looked at his daughter and spoke gently but firmly. "My child," he said, "remain dignified no matter what happens today." Emily nodded slowly. "Yes, Daddy," she replied. And outside, the sound of approaching vehicles began to rise. The moment they had all been waiting for was now coming closer. Soon, the sound of engines entered the street before the vehicles themselves appeared. People behind the security barriers leaned forward. Phones rose into the air. Even children became quiet, sensing that this was not an ordinary day. Then the motorcade arrived. Black cars, polished, moving in order, stopping with precision. Right on time. Security men stepped out first, scanning the area with eyes that missed nothing. Then the president's car door opened. President Tunde Adeyemi stepped out, calm and composed, wearing the kind of expression that showed he was used to being watched. Beside him was his son, Daniel Adeyemi, dressed simply, his face controlled, his eyes observant. And then another car door opened. An elderly woman stepped out, walking with quiet grace. Nobody in the crowd knew who she truly was. But inside the car, everyone did. It was Madame Florence Adeyemi, the same old woman who had fallen at the ball, the same one Emily had helped. The president glanced at the two houses on the street, then made his decision without hesitation. They would enter the Azikiwe home first. The Azikiwe gate opened quickly, almost desperately, like the house was eager to swallow the president before anything could go wrong. Inside, the Azikiwe compound looked like a wedding venue. Flowers were everywhere. Chairs were arranged neatly. A buffet table stood in the corner, heavy with food and drinks that were trying too hard to impress. Richard and Susan rushed forward immediately. Their respect was loud. Too loud. They bowed and smiled like their necks had no bones. "Mr. President," Richard said, spreading his hands. "What an honor. What a blessing. Please, please, you are welcome." Susan's voice followed quickly, sweet and dramatic. "Sir, we are humbled, truly humbled." Sandra stepped forward, perfectly positioned, her posture trained, her smile controlled. She looked like someone acting in front of a camera. Daniel said nothing. He stood slightly behind, watching quietly, his eyes moving from face to face. He did not greet Sandra with warmth. He did not react to her performance. He only observed. The president entered their sitting room and took a seat. Madame Florence remained standing for a moment, her eyes calm, taking everything in. The president looked at Sandra directly. "Mademoiselle Sandra Azikiwe," he said, "we have been told you helped my wife during the ball." Sandra did not blink. "Yes, sir," she said smoothly. "I helped her. I couldn't ignore her. I have a soft heart." Susan nodded quickly beside her, smiling hard. "She has always been like that," Susan added. "We raised her well." The president's face remained serious. "And you are certain it was you?" he asked. Sandra's throat tightened slightly, but she forced confidence into her voice. "Yes, sir, it was me." Daniel remained silent. His eyes stayed on Sandra's face, not in admiration, but in careful study, like someone looking at a lie and waiting to see how far it would go. Then the door opened, and Madame Florence walked in fully. The room shifted, not because anyone knew who she was to the public, but because her presence carried weight, quiet, heavy weight. She walked closer and stood in front of Sandra. Madame Florence did not smile. She looked at Sandra closely, the way a mother looks at a stranger claiming something precious. Then she asked, clearly and directly, "Are you the one who helped me?" Sandra's lips parted. For a second, the mask slipped. Her eyes darted quickly, just one small movement, toward her mother. Susan's expression tightened like a warning. Sandra swallowed. Then she nodded again. "Yes," she said. "It was me, madam." Madame Florence's face stayed calm, but her eyes sharpened. "Strange," she said. The room grew quiet. Madame Florence continued slowly, her voice firm, carrying details like stones. "The young woman who helped me wore a traditional wax outfit and had darker hair," she said. "Neatly packed. She did not look like she was coming to compete." Sandra's fingers curled slightly at her sides. Madame Florence added, "She spoke to me about working at the market with her mother." Sandra's face strained. The lie was breaking. Susan's smile froze completely. Madame Florence looked at Sandra one last time and said quietly, "You are not her." Sandra's lips trembled, but she said nothing. She could not even find the strength to defend herself properly. Richard stepped forward quickly, desperate to turn the situation. "Mr. President," he said sharply, "that girl next door is a manipulator. She has planned this. She wants to steal my daughter's opportunity. She has been deceiving people with fake humility." The president lifted his hand. Richard stopped talking immediately. The president's voice was steady, but hard. "Mr. Azikiwe," he said, "we know more than you think." Richard's face tightened. The president continued. "We know about the bribery attempts," he said. "We know you moved around this neighborhood giving money to people to speak against another young woman." Susan's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. The president didn't stop. "And we have also discovered issues in your business," he added, "including corruption and tax fraud." Richard's legs weakened. For a moment, he looked like a man trying to stay standing through pride alone. Then his body betrayed him. He sank into the nearest chair, breathing heavily, eyes wide, like he had not expected truth to arrive this fast. Susan's hand flew to her mouth. Sandra stood still, pale, her performance completely gone. The president leaned forward slightly. "Legal action will follow," he said firmly. "This matter will not end here." Richard tried to speak, but his mouth couldn't form the words. The president turned his attention to Sandra. "Mademoiselle Sandra," he said, "lies and manipulation are not what we are looking for." Sandra's eyes filled, but not with regret, more with shock and humiliation. The president stood up. Daniel stood too, still quiet, his expression controlled. He did not look at Sandra with anger. He didn't even look at her with joy. He simply looked away, like she was no longer important. Madame Florence turned and began walking out. The president followed. Security opened the door. And just like that, the first house was left behind. The Azikiwe mansion, full of flowers and buffets, suddenly looked empty, because no amount of decoration could cover disgrace. Outside the gate, the crowd whispered loudly as the motorcade moved again, slowly, deliberately, toward the second house, toward the Nwosu home. The motorcade stopped in front of the second house. The noise outside was still loud, people whispering, Security men shouting instructions, phones raised in the air. But inside the small Nwosu home, everything felt quiet, like the house itself was holding its breath. Ben Nwosu stood beside his wife, his face steady, though his eyes showed the tension he was trying to hide. Blessing's palms were slightly damp. Her heart beat hard against her chest. She kept adjusting her wrapper as if it could calm her nerves. And Emily stood there, silent. Her simple outfit clean and modest. Her face was calm, but her stomach was turning. Then the knock came. Not loud, but firm. Blessing moved first. She opened the door respectfully, her voice shaking slightly as she greeted them. "Good morning, sir," she said, lowering her head. "You are welcome." The president stepped inside. The moment he entered, the small sitting room suddenly felt smaller. Not because the room was too tight, but because power had walked in. Still, the room was clean. Simple chairs, swept floor, a small table, and the smell of coffee that Blessing had prepared with care. Behind the president was Daniel, and behind Daniel was Madame Florence. The moment Daniel's eyes fell on Emily, he stopped walking for a second. Everything else faded. The noise outside, the security men, the whispers, even the president. Daniel's eyes locked with Emily's. Emily's breath caught. Because she knew him too, not as the president's son, but as the calm man who held her hand on the dance floor and spoke to her like she mattered. Daniel's face softened in a way he had not allowed it to soften in the Azukiwe house. "It's you," his eyes seemed to say, even before his lips moved. Emily stood still, her heart pounding. Madame Florence walked forward slowly, her face gentle now, no disguise, no testing, no pretending. She went straight to Emily and wrapped her arms around her like a mother who had found something precious. Blessing gasped softly. Ben's eyes widened. Emily froze. Then she felt it. Warmth, comfort, and something she could not name. Madame Florence held her for a moment and then pulled back just enough to look at her face. "This is the girl," she said clearly, her voice carrying through the room. "The girl with the golden heart." Emily's eyes filled instantly. She didn't understand how her simple act had reached this far, but she felt the weight of it now. Daniel stepped forward, and before anyone could stop him, before anyone could even fully breathe, Daniel did something that shocked the room. He knelt in front of Emily. Blessing's hands flew to her mouth. Ben stood up slightly from his chair, stunned. The president watched quietly, allowing his son to speak. Daniel looked up at Emily, his voice steady but full of truth.
Since that night, I have not stopped thinking about you. Your humility, your kindness, the way you helped my mother without caring he was watching, it touched me.
Emily's lips trembled. Daniel's voice softened even more. "I don't want a woman who is perfect on the outside and empty inside," he said. "I want something real." He breathed in slowly. "I want to know you properly," he said. "To build something true with you." Emily's tears came faster now. Not because she was trying to cry, but because her heart could not carry the moment without spilling. She covered her face briefly, overwhelmed. Ben Nwosu stepped forward and placed his hand gently on his daughter's shoulder. "My child," he said quietly, his voice calm, protective, full of love. Emily wiped her face and looked at him. Ben spoke slowly, clearly, like he wanted her to hear him with her whole heart. "He respects you," Ben said. "He sees your value. The choice is yours." Emily turned back to Daniel. Daniel remained kneeling, waiting. No pressure, no force, no arrogance. Just hope. Emily's chest rose and fell. She looked at her mother. Blessing's eyes were wet. Her lips moved like she was praying without sound. Emily looked back at Daniel and her voice came out small but clear. "Yes," she said. "Yes."
Yes.
For a second, the room stood still. Then outside, the street exploded. The crowd had been waiting for any sign, any hint of the outcome. When they saw the body language, when they heard the loud reactions from within, cheers rose like a wave. People shouted. People clapped. Some neighbors jumped like it was a festival. Auntie Teresa cried openly. holding her chest as if her heart might burst. Papa Maurice lifted both hands and shook his head slowly, tears in his eyes. "She deserves it," he whispered. "She deserves it." Even those who had doubted Emily stood frozen, watching like they had seen a miracle. Blessing sank into her chair, crying quietly, not loud, not dramatic, just deep relief. The kind of relief that comes when suffering is finally seen. The president stepped out of the house afterward and raised his hand for the crowd to calm down. His voice carried over the street, strong and clear. "Today," he said, "we have all learned something important." People fell silent. He continued, "Real wealth is not houses, cars, or money. It is character. It is kindness. It is integrity." He looked back toward the Norsu house and nodded once. "This young woman," he said, "is the kind of person society should celebrate. Not because she is poor, not because she is lucky, but because her heart is right." The crowd murmured, emotional. Then the president said the final words that stayed in the air long after the motorcade was gone. "The heart will always defeat packaging." And on that street, between two homes divided by one wall, everyone finally understood that the things people mock today can become the very things the world honors tomorrow.